Tattoo artists, what's the worst tattoo someone has asked you to do that you've refused? Once a young kid 21 came in and wanted Shrek around his big dig and gonads, not on it. It would look like Shrek was opening his mouth and his junk came out. That was the easiest no I've ever given. Edit. Thanks for that Silver Browski. Come to my place and I'll tattoo anything on your junk. My buddy said a dude asked him to draw pubes in for him because he couldn't grow them. Once I was waiting at a shop, and a family came in because their teenage son wanted a Hatchet Man tattoo. My artist begrudgingly agreed to do the ink and sent them back to get ready. He walks over to me and tells me how much this kid is going to regret this stupid tattoo, and he normally has morals about what he will put onto people. But he really needed the money and the whole family was excited about his first tattoo, while the kid was getting his future regrets permanently applied. The dad was super excited to show me his big dig that hangs below his knee. He rolls up his pant leg to reveal a huge full color tattoo of a rooster hanging from a noose, positioned below his knee. Obligatory, not a tattoo artist, but I asked this of mine. He says he once had a guy want a tattoo under his thumbnail, like he was gonna rip the nail off, then come into the studio so he could get a tattoo that would eventually be protected by a new thumbnail. Have a friend who's a tattoo artist. Once had a woman come into his shop and ask for a full-sized ruler tattooed on her inner thigh because she was tired of guys lying to her. Another guy wanted his big dig to have an elephant trunk tattoo with matching elephant ears on each thigh. Buddy told him, I'm sure you can get it done but I'm not ducking doing it. This dude proceeds to ask every artist in the shop only to be turned down and sent out to look for another shop. The only time I refused to do a tattoo was because this guy was creepy. Everything was off. Insistent. Trying to lower the price. I don't know. I just didn't want to give him an address at all. I can't explain it. Sometimes I just get this sensation. My whole body tells me no. If you do this, you'll end up in the trunk of a car, and I always trust myself, so yeah. No tattoo for the guy that, by the way, claimed his wife was a tattoo artist too. If it's true, she'll do it, lol. Heard a story of an artist that was asked to do Minnie Mouse blowing Mickey Mouse on an elderly woman. I once refused to tattoo a girl and her father complained to me by yelling at me from about 2 feet away. She was 14, legal age where I live is 18, and she wanted her boyfriend's name above her eye. She was willing to compromise to her hand though. No. Wasn't a tattoo artist but was getting a tattoo done when this happened. But whilst mine was being done, a shaved-headed man walked in. Typical skinhead attire, but not all skinheads are Nazi, so didn't judge at first when he asked for a swastika on his forehead in the style of Charles Manson. The tattoo artist wasn't overly pleased with that request and the man was quickly asked to leave. That one was pretty bad. As with everyone else not a tattoo artist but asked the guy who does mine. He said he had a World War II fanatic who was a regular and got a lot of battle scene stuff and WW2 nostalgia tattoos. The final piece he wanted was a portrait piece on his back of Hitler and Churchill. TA refused as he didn't want to be associated with tattooing Hitler on someone, but said the guy wasn't racist or anything, just a huge WW2 buff. Had a woman come in asking for a face tattoo. She wanted my best life on her temple, Jesus ever loving Christ. Normally I will refuse to tattoo someone's face unless they are another tattoo artist or they are already heavily covered in tattoos. She was heavily covered, so I okayed it after suggesting several other spots first. Now let me say this lady was ducking weird, rambling about me being her girl and I was gonna make it tight and a whole bunch of other nonsense I was trying to tune out. I'm about 50% sure she was on something, but she signed a waiver claiming she wasn't and I didn't want to be like, hey, are you on Drew Gus or just ducking loony? Anyway, I put the stencil on and she goes to check it out in the mirror. She looks all confused, I can't read it. I remind her that it's backwards because she's looking in a mirror, and after taking a minute to ponder that revelation she's like, can I get it backwards so that when I look in the mirror I can read it? Ducking hell. I try politely to point out how absolutely brain dead that is, but she's getting herself all hyped for this idea, so I have to straight up just be like, I'm not putting backwards writing on your face. I did tattoo her. But I didn't tattoo illegible nonsense on her face. So hopefully that counts. I've also turned down swastikas and Confederate flags. But those stories aren't as interesting. Just run-of-the-mill racists. Wasn't me, but when I got my first tattoo I asked what was the worst they'd done. Turns out a girl came in drunk and got "duck me here" in huge letters on her stomach with her arrow pointing down to her crotch. This was in New York, for anyone wondering. It was much earlier in my career when I worked at a shop outside the city and closer to countryside. Got a request for a deer holding a hunting rifle with a tribal style cross in the background. Icing on the cake is he wanted the deer to be silhouetted. Not with your typical black but with the Confederate flag pattern and colors. Have a vague memory of barbed wire somehow being in the mix. Not a tattoo artist. But when I bought my first tattoo machine to practice on fruit and stuff, my boyfriend's friend tried to convince me to give him a face tattoo as his first tattoo and my first time tattooing real skin. I vaguely remember he wanted it to have something to do with his girlfriend at the time. Could have been her name. But I'm not sure now. That was an easy no. Obligatory, not a tattoo artist. But I talked to one once. I asked them what their weirdest client had asked for. And they told me about the time an old guy, probably like 48 or something, wanted a tattoo of a random little girl on his chest. This girl wasn't even his daughter or grandchild. It was just a random picture of a little girl he'd seen on Facebook. One dude asked if I'd do a taint tattoo. I didn't even ask what he wanted. Big ol' no from me, dog. Another funny one we didn't say no to. It just didn't happen for whatever reason. Was this dude asking for a caricature of Trump on his ass cheek? Sad days when he no call no showed his appointment. A friend of mine in college was a tattoo artist and he was covered in ink. He was very proud of one tattoo that his boss gave him. A taint tattoo. It was a zipper going from his gonads to asshole. I did not see that tattoo in person. Not that he didn't offer, but his boss did say he really did that for him. He was a fun guy. My partner was asked to tattoo Posh Spice's face onto the face of a bogan from the back blocks of New South Wales. A naked woman masturbating with a carrot. Right to the left of his junk. I think he just wanted me to have to touch his big dick. Worst request I ever got. Extremely drunk college girl came in wanting her ex's name tattooed around her asshole because apparently, and I quote, he was a god at eating ass. Told her to come back sober, that I wasn't going to. Next day her friend came in and apologized and gave me $20 for not being a big dick. Also part 2. This younger guy came in with a fake ID. The girl that used to run our front desk spotted it right away and called me over. I asked what he was wanting done and he proceeded to tell me he wanted a swastika in memory of his dad. Okay, well, shop policy, no racist or gang tats. I explain this and he's cool. He comes back a few days later absolutely sheet-faced demanding I do this tattoo because he is a customer and I have to take his money if he wants it. I finally get sick of listening to the little sheet complain and tell him flat out no. He didn't like that and said he would call his dad. Same dad he said he wanted the memorial tattoo of. We all called him out and he realized he ducked up, sprinted out of the shop and ran right into a parked car and knocked himself out. Ambulance and cops come talk to us then leave. Never saw him again. Edit. I only asked what the kid wanted because he was obviously on pills or something and wanted to keep him calm until we could get him out. I would never tattoo a minor no matter what. My dad actually owns a tattoo shop. Ironically, he's the only pisser, but anyways. When I was talking to one of the artists, they told me that someone wanted to get George W. Bush on their upper thigh so they could say, "Hey, want to see my bush?" She didn't end up getting it tattooed but duck. I thought it was hilarious. My former artist got asked by a guy if he would tattoo a big dick. He said for an extra £500 on top of the cost. Then yes. Guy ducked out of that one. I then proceeded to ask him if he would tattoo my big dick. Thinking I was being funny. His response destroyed me. I can't do tattoos that small. I'm a tattoo artist in training. Here are things I would turn away. Hate symbols. Face tats. Big dig tats. Both on the big dig and a tat of big digs. Basically any genital tats. Portraits. Name initials of romantic partner. Matching romantic partner tats. Even if they're married. I would try to convince some who wanted a tattoo on skin where it's more likely to fade, such as side of the finger or lip, to move it somewhere where it would last. But I wouldn't flat out refuse it. Not a tattoo artist. But I witnessed the refusal. When I was getting my second tattoo, a girl I went to high school came in and was wanting to price out one. It was basically one of those poems that are written into a shape, like a drawing made with words. I don't know what they're called, that was pretty intricate looking and she was adamant that she wanted it on her thigh. Tattoo artist tried explaining that with the size they wanted it, the words would be utterly illegible in the best of circumstances. But the girl kept insisting that it would be visible. In the end, the artist said she wasn't going to waste time on something she knew wasn't going to work. After the girl I knew left, she, artist, turned to me and mentioned that it wasn't the first time that girl had come in wanting something ridiculous or impossible and she hated dealing with her because she never took no for an answer. Unrelated to the topic. But I was also there one day when a girl and her dad came in. She had apparently just turned 17 and she wanted a tattoo and dad was along to get one too. The girl wanted Hello Kitty on her upper thigh. With a speech bubble that went above her privates that read hi there she got the tattoo. My artist told me he refused it to tattoo a woman who asked for a zipper along her pussy lips and a pull tab at the top. So it would look like it was unzipped as though her vaginal was some sort of grotesque change purse. A tattoo of Deadpool. Tattooing Deadpool on as of yet another Deadpool. To recap, that's 3 realistic Deadpools in one tattoo he wanted on his tiny arm. My cousin is a tattoo artist and one guy wanted the original Halo symbol for legendary difficulty tattooed across his entire back. Guy wasn't even a former pro. He just really liked Halo. She couldn't convince him to go with a different design but was able to convince him to downsize it slightly to his shoulder. Not a tattoo artist, but I read that some woman once asked a tattoo artist to tattoo 2 lightning bolts on her. They were supposed to be next to each other and it would resemble SS. The tattoo artist said no. Then the woman asked would he be okay to do it but if they were blue. The answer was also no. Not a tattoo artist. But this happened to me. I went to a shop and wanted to get a flower on my neck. Talked to the artist and he talked me out of getting it on my neck. He said it was a job killer and he won't do necks or hands on anyone who isn't covered in tattoos. I asked him where he thought would be a good spot for it. And he suggested my lower arm by my elbow. I gotta say, I'm really grateful he didn't let me get a neck tattoo. This will probably get buried. And I'm not a tattoo artist. But my second wife did have cum dumpster tattooed on her ass. Weirdly. That didn't turn out to be a great relationship. My now ex-husband wanted his name on my body because I have yours on mine. The artist came to my house, small town, and we discussed it at length. I wanted ink but didn't want a brand so he did the letters small. On my shoulder past the bra strap line. And in pink. My ex wasn't happy about it so the guy said it looks feminine. Years later and it looks like a weird birthmark. Pink fades within 10 years. Thank you tattoo guy. Side note, my ex covered my name up with black. Just black. No cool design or anything. A flag on his ass cheeks. It was split in 2 vertically. On one half the Confederate flag, battle flag, and the other half the Nazi flag. He wanted Donald Trump's face superimposed on top with his open mouth placed where the man's chocolate starfish opened. There is a man in my town that about 55 and has doodles of colored stick figures all over his face. I call him Cartoon Man, not to his face of course. I would blame a tattoo artist. But I hear it was an at-home job. Much like the woman I saw with her name backwards badly tattooed to her chest. Likely because she did it looking in a mirror. I love our local Walmart. There's always something to see. A friend came back from Panama. FL with a happy face tattoo covering 75% of his back. Few months later he made a Rasta happy face with a joint. Not a tat artist but a client. My artists had the sense to realize that I was getting a tattoo of my cheating wife as an angel on my arm because my pet name for her was my little angel. His brother was ducking my wife. His brother had shown him a picture of the girl he was ducking with her loser husband. Jake kept his mouth shut, since he had just tattooed me a couple months before, and recognized not just me, but his own very unique artwork on my arm. I went back to him because he was a total G. A great artist. And a good person. He saved me from years of heartache in 2 ways. Be like Jake, who says things like, maybe you should get her as the devil, cause she's on you dirty. I'll never forget the immediate feeling of he knows something I don't, because it was one of the only times it's ever been correct. I once got rejected. I wanted the Deathly Hallows behind my ear. I grew up with the Harry Potter books and it was a bit of nostalgia for me. But the tattoo artist didn't want to do it. He only tattooed non-visible places. So no lower arms, face, neck, etc. Had someone ask me if I'd tattoo a relative of theirs who had just recently passed away, because there were a lot of tattoos the person wanted but never got the chance to get. Hard pass. Don't think I'll ever want to tattoo a corpse. But I did learn, at least the state I was in, that there is a small grey area where it's legal under the right conditions. Basically I'd need to be a surgeon and perform the tattoo in the morgue. Not an artist, but last time I was in a tattoo shop getting a piercing done. There was an old man getting a tattoo done on his head. He had wispy hairs on top of his head. It was a stick figure pushing a lawnmower across his bald spot. Personally, if I were the artist, I wouldn't have done it. But then again, the artist who was doing that tattoo is famous in my area for tattooing something he calls a T-Rex, which is basically a green pen 15 with T-Rex features through. She wanted an open asshole with a turd coming out of it. I shudder to think what kind of porn she watches. Chick wanted a big dig on her upper inner thigh pointing towards her snatch. Pedo bear with a Lolita in his lap. I told him to duck off.